Hello, I'm Trevor Alonzo. This is my review of Scream 7. Ghostface is once again out on a new murderous rampage. But unlike the last two, not following the Carpenter sisters, since Melissa Barrera was let go of because of her comments, and Jenna Ortega leaving the series. Creator and writer of the first movie, Kevin Williamson, is back not only writing, but also directing. The last movie he directed was Teaching Mrs. Tingle back in 1999, so nearly a 30-year gap. This time around, Ghostface is going after Sydney and her family. Neve Campbell is back. After sitting 6 out over a pay dispute, Sydney now owns a coffee shop, also has a husband and 3 kids. 2 of the youngest are conveniently at Grandma's house. So basically child labor laws for filming. The oldest daughter, Tatum, named after her best friend from the first movie. I wonder if her other kids are named after other fallen friends. Tatum is the same age as Cindy when the events of the first movie happened, which doesn't add up to the events of Scream 4. Wait, a slasher series with a timeline that doesn't fully add up? Also, Patrick Dempsey was going to reprise his role from Scream 3, now being Sydney's husband, but due to scheduling conflicts, the husband was changed to Joe McHale, which they had to call him Mark for continuity. So now Sydney has a type for men named Mark who are cops. Since Sydney's daughter is a target, a new group of friends are around for the body count, and for the suspects. Which I almost didn't figure out who the killer was. I kinda figured out part of it. I'll explain in the spoilers. Courtney Cox is also back as Gail Weathers. It feels like she doesn't do as much as what she does in other movies. Mindy and Chad are back from 5 and 6. They don't bring a whole lot to the movie this time around. Now they are camera crew for Gail. The movie does have a strong cold open, which takes place at the Stu Marcher house, which is now an Airbnb attraction. Okay, in the movie world, I could see it as a museum like the Lindsay Borden house. But who would want to stay there for the weekend in that world? Because murders just happened about 4 years earlier. Not to mention all the copycat killings that keep happening so often in this world. Now I did find out in real life you can visit this house. They have some group overnight events. But you know what? No actual murders have happened there. So I wouldn't mind spending a night there watching Scream. There are some intense scenes in the movie. I could definitely tell from the audience. Which is the best way to see these types of movies is with a full theater. The jump scares were about average for a Scream movie. It wasn't the bloodiest Scream, but was good for the most part in kills. And there are definitely a few times it shines with the gore. This one isn't as meta as the other Screams. I think I figured out what the trope is for this one, but I'll explain that in the spoilers. I do have to say there are a few points the characters did some dumb things for a horror movie, especially since this is the type of thing that keeps happening to some of the same characters over and over again. You would think they would be a little bit more ahead of Ghostface. I'm not saying go full Laurie Strode from Halloween 2018, just go a little bit. One really dumb thing that happened was, in one scene there was a cop clearing the room in complete dark. The cop doesn't turn on the flashlight on his own gun. I said out loud in the theater, he has a flashlight on his gun. I can hear people laughing in the theater over this. The directing was good for what it is. You know, it's no Wes Craven. But then again, Wes Craven has turned in some duds. I'm looking at you, Heels Have Eyes 2. The story could have used some work. They kept going back to the original. Now, when I say they kept going back to the original, I really mean it. It's fun to see homages to the original. And then there's, are we just going to do the same scene from the first one again? One scene that was basically the same from the first one was the bedroom scene with the boyfriend of Tatum crawling through the window. The dialogue between him and Tatum is basically the same as the first movie. They even played the same unplugged version of Don't Fear the Reaper. They could have not done scenes like that in this movie. And there was a lot of red herrings in this movie. I know it's fun in a mystery movie to be thrown off. This was a little much. With that being said, I'll get into spoilers. If you want to jump ahead to my rating, the time code is in the description. Okay, one last warning. Now for spoilers. Stu is back! Psych! Early on, Sydney gets calls from Ghostface. Ghostface FaceTimes Sydney, try saying that 5 times fast, showing a scarred and aged Stu. At first everyone's like, it's gotta be AI. Then there's speculation that he's back. Of course, you really know he's not back when at the end of the movie, Sydney is walking around through the house, on TV as Stu, then it turns into other past killers, which is just time for cameos. I get the killers' faces would be in the news, but how would they know what they sound like? That's not how AI works. Okay, when I said there was a lot of red herrings for this movie could have just been called Scream 7 The Red Herring. AI Stu is the biggest red herring. The boyfriend of Tatum kept being set up as the killer. He acted like Billy from the first movie so much. At one point he's apparently their AI expert. He recreates one of the messages to Sydney. Tatum sees it. The guy claims he did it just to see if he could, but why not show everyone? Or act out a different message? So it looks like he's the killer. This guy's part was just to be the red herring. Okay, there are 3 killers for this movie. The first one was killed in the middle of the movie. When they took his mask off, nobody knew who he was. To the point that Gail says, "Who is he?" Sydney says, "I don't know." Gail says, "It's nobody we know?" But that sucks. The movie is saying what we are all thinking. When they showed him earlier in a coffee shop for a minute, he was a scuzzy, rough-looking guy. I thought, okay, he could be the killer, but it's a Scream movie, usually it's someone in a group. Any other slasher, it would be that guy. So I thought, I'm wrong. Nope, I guessed it. He had no lines at all. The main killer turns out to be Sydney's neighbor Jessica, who was in a couple of scenes. So nobody really in the group. Heck, her son was more of a suspect than her. Her motivation was she read Sydney's book about surviving the murders and dealing with the aftermath. So she killed her abusive husband, thinking that Sydney would do that. Then seeing Sydney not in the events of New York made her lose it. She went to the mental hospital, where she met her new husband and third killer, balding guy from Can't Hardly Wait. I mean Marco. Marco apparently worked at the hospital. Marco also apparently worked for Google in the past. So he came up with the AI Stu. Jessica decided Sydney no longer had a purpose not being the final girl. She started the killings. She convinced another patient at the hospital to join them. That first killer that got killed, Jessica ended up killing her own son because she thought he was too much like his father. Jessica's goal was to make Tatum the new final girl by partly recreating the first kill from the first movie, giving her the traumatic events that started Sydney as the final girl. Sydney ends up shooting Marco. Then after a big fight and chase, Sydney and Tatum shoot Jessica repeatedly until half her head was gone. Okay, this is not the best killer reveal. It's not the worst reveal in slasher history.
Alright, you bastard, let's see who you really are.
I know we don't have very much screen time of the killers before the reveal, but remember Mrs. Voorhees wasn't seen in Friday the 13th until a few minutes before her reveal as a killer, and she wasn't anyone in the group. But unfortunately for rewatching this, it won't play out like the other Screams. In the other Screams, you can rewatch them over and over, trying to figure out which killer is at what point. Especially to throw off the group when there's 2 of them. With this, it doesn't matter because none of the killers are in the group. I still enjoyed this movie. It's entertaining. I definitely had fun with it. It's not the worst in the series, nor is it the best. Now, with each movie, each one has a horror movie trope. The first one being the slasher, the second one being the sequel, the third was a trilogy, the fourth was a remake, the fifth one was a requel/legacy movie, the sixth one was the franchise. I think this one is the anniversary movie. Whether the filmmakers intended it for it to be or not, some people say it's the past characters passing the torch, which that has happened in the last 3 movies. This does what a lot of anniversary movies do. They go back to the original, they bring back characters from the first one, they try bringing back characters that have died already, some scenes referencing the first movie or just plain out redoing the same thing. It's also a 30th anniversary of Scream, so this definitely fits in an anniversary type trope. Despite all of its flaws, I still like this one. It's not the worst slasher movie I've seen, but it's definitely not the best. That's why I'm giving this a 7 out of 10 Ghostface mask. And yes, I realize my rating's a little bit ironic because it's the 7th movie. I know the reaction to this movie is very mixed. I will say it's not for everyone, but at least give it a chance. And just have fun with it, especially if you're a fan of the Scream movies. Or do what Randy has said.
I'll wait for video.
Thank you for watching my video. Hello, Sydney. Okay, that's my bad Ghostface impersonation.